Hi, I'm David Howes with the Ontario Waterworks Association Small Systems Committee, and today I'm going to provide a couple of maintenance tips on how to change a liquid end and diaphragm on a small solenoid-driven diaphragm-style metering pump, such as this one and this one. So before you perform any maintenance on a chemical dosing pump, it's important to wear the appropriate personal protective equipment. The best way to do that is to refer to the appropriate material safety data sheet for the appropriate chemical that you're using. So whether it's sodium hypochlorite or aluminum sulfide, there'll be specific guides on personal protective equipment. For this demonstration, we're not using any chemical, so I'm just wearing typical equipment that you would use for this demonstration purpose. So a solenoid-driven diaphragm-style metering pump like this is a positive displacement pump that will work in a variety of applications in a variety of size of plants, from small to large, non-municipal to large towns and cities water treatment plants, because of their ability to handle a wide range of flows and pressures. So how a pump such as this works is inside of this liquid end, we call this liquid end as this is the wetted end of the pump. There is a diaphragm, looks somewhat like a plunger, and I'll show you a picture of another one. As this diaphragm is also connected to a shaft, and in this particular case it's connected to a solenoid, or it could be an air operated, or it could be a motor. As this diaphragm moves forward and back inside this chamber, what happens is as it moves forward, pressure in the chamber is decreased, which draws fluid out through the suction end of the pump, and as it's forward, its pressure is increased, causing fluid to move out of the pump, and that is the metering of the pump. So that's what we call strokes per minute, and metering is typically done by adjusting the amount of times that diaphragm moves forward and back in the chamber, and also the range of motion of that diaphragm, which we call the stroke length adjustment. Both of those combine to give you your 100% metering and also your turn down, so how slow that pump runs. So because of the fact that the wetted end of the pump is seeing the most wear and tear, that's where your maintenance comes from. So typically what you will see is that eventually that diaphragm is going to start to wear. The check valves are going to start to wear, so they all need to be maintained. So the first thing that you need to learn how to do is to remove the liquid end and change the diaphragm. So in this particular model of pump, there's 4 bolts with an Allen key. You just simply remove that. Now after you've, of course, removed the power, if you have a pressurized system such as this, you want to first relieve the pressure, and in this particular case, and often recommended, is a pressure relief valve on your system. So you can simply relieve that, open that, relieve the pressure out of your system, isolate the chemical lines, and remove the power. So once you've done all that, you're ready to actually perform the maintenance. So after loosening all of the bolts on the diaphragm pump, then you can expose the actual diaphragm and the liquid end itself, just like this. So once that's removed, you can set it aside, and what this will do is expose 2 things. It'll expose the diaphragm and it'll expose the cover. As you can see on this particular model pump, and a lot of models similar to this, there's a little drip port here. You may notice that at some time during your operation that this starts to drip chemical. That's a warning sign that the diaphragm needs to be replaced. So once you've removed the liquid end, the other thing that you need to do is release the tension on the diaphragm. So this particular model pump here requires the stroke length to be adjusted and turn down to 0. So what that does is releases the tension on the diaphragm, and allows you, typically you'd be wearing gloves for chemicals, but allows you to simply spin off the diaphragm, just like this, and allows you to replace it with a new one. So you would take a new one out of the package and go ahead and thread it back on. This is just a threaded connection. So you'll do that to hand tight, and then once you've done that, you want to go ahead and put the stroke length back to where you've had it previously, and that's something that you have marked or that you know about, and that'll again grab the tension on the pump. So after you have the liquid end off, it's also good to look at what other parts on that wetted end may need to be replaced. And often they are the check valves. So on this particular pump, there's 3 check valves, but you'll have a minimum of 2, a suction and a discharge. So the best way to do that is to refer to a diagram, and manufacturers will have a diagram of the check valves so that you can see how it looks when the parts of that check valve are actually taken apart. So this particular one, it shows you the O-rings, it shows you the tubing connection, it shows you the ball checks inside that check valve. So if you do take it apart for cleaning, it shows you how to put them back together again. So you could do that, or you can refer to a rebuild kit, which will have completely new check valves that you can replace on that liquid end as needed. So it depends on the application. You may want to just clean them, change O-rings. So depending on the chemical, the wear and tear, you have the option of changing the check valves completely or rebuilding them. We recommend that typically every 18 months or so that a new check valve go into place if you haven't rebuilt them. So that's something that you can refer to from the manufacturer by looking at this diagram. So once that's done and you've changed the diaphragm and you've maintain the check valves, you can install the liquid end back on the pump. So by doing that, it's just the same as what you've done before, by putting the bolts in the appropriate spot and using your Allen key to tighten it. But one tip that I need to provide is when you're dealing with acrylic or any materials that could crack, tighten it more like you would if you were replacing a tire. So sort of tighten one and then the opposite end, so you're not tightening one more than the other to reduce the possibility of cracking. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and put the pump back in line, power the pump, prime your system, and you've done the maintenance required for a solenoid driven diaphragm style metering pump. Thanks for watching.